There is a certain art to camp when it comes to film that only happens once in a blue moon. It can't be replicated. Sleepaway Camp is one example. Deadly Friend is another example. What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Deadly Friend is a film by Wes Craven that is a little bit different than what Wes Craven is known for. And that's not to say that he hasn't jumped into other things. This is just a film that is so hilarious and comedic compared to A Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, which is my second favorite film of all time. My second favorite horror film of all time, sorry. Number one being Night of the Living Dead. But when it comes to Wes Craven's work, he's generally about the horror specifically. And this one certainly is horrific, but dives into other things, especially corniness and campiness galore. It honestly, like, I only discovered this film not too long ago. I'd say like in the last 2 years, and it intrigued me, so I thought I'd check it out for 31 Days of Horror 2022. And yeah, it's insane. Like, I heard it was insane, but like it blew my mind in its insanity, in its comedy, in its ridiculousness. Like, this film is bonkers. It is so bonkers, and Scream Factory gave it a great release too, with a beautiful slipcover, and yeah, it's a film that is so much fun. So what happens is there's this guy named Paul, and Paul, he's kind of like a coroner. He studies brains. He's a very intelligent guy, but he's also a very nerdy guy. And he's in this kind of small town, and he's very educated in like studying brains once people have deceased. And this girl moves in next door to him, and she instantly falls for him, which I didn't necessarily buy, but it goes with the story, so whatever. She really liked him for whatever reason, especially because he had this robot named BB. And I don't know, like, if they were like predicting the future with this film, or like it deals with AI, but this robot is so ridiculous. Like, it looks like a toy that would have been like what a kid would play with in maybe 1998 or something, or like, because this is an 80s film, so I almost feel like they were like predicting what AI would be like, but it's so corny and cheesy, and this thing is huge, and it just like rolls around, and like it's ridiculous. It's also pointless. Like, who would need a thing like this? But anyways, this BB robot is like really good friends with Paul. Paul loves this BB robot. It goes around, and at one point it like grabs a bully by the balls, and the bully makes the most ridiculous sound that you can hear, even though clearly he's in pain. And eventually in the film, like I said, this film is absolutely ridiculous. So the things that happen, like, there's a scene where this woman named Elvira is her name, and she's a neighbor, and she, like, every time anybody remotely gets near her property. She just comes out the door with a shotgun. And there's a scene where she's like, "Get off my lawn," and then the kids are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." It's like, I, well, I mean, I'd be sprinting, but I don't know. I'm Canadian, so in Canada you don't see people coming out of their homes with shotguns very often. Maybe in some states that's more common. That's more like uh, you know, excuse me, get off my lawn, than it would be here at gunpoint. It's, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, they're just, their reaction is insane. And she shoots the robot and destroys the robot, basically. And then there's this whole plot with Sam, the female character, the neighbor of Paul, where her dad is abusive and her dad shamelessly like beats her, but it's the most ridiculous acting I've ever seen. And she'll go to the neighbors and she'll try to like spend time with the neighbor, with Paul and Paul's mom, and the dad will show up and he'll be like, he'll like just come in and like drag her out of the house and say like, "This will never happen again, don't you worry." And then he'll go home and like slap the shit out of his daughter, and the mom's like, "You can say something if you want," and the Sam is like, "But he's my dad. Sometimes I want to run his face over with a truck, but he's my dad." And it's just, it goes on. It's, the abuse thing is not funny, but the execution of it is just so hysterical. It's just, it's played out so ridiculously. And so many things in this film are played out ridiculously. It's like the kills, like there's the infamous basketball scene where the woman Elvira gets killed in her home because Sam, who is now has the robot chip in her head, throws a basketball at this woman's face and her face explodes like a watermelon. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. And I kind of skipped ahead of myself there. What happens is the girl dies because her father pushes her down the stairs and she lands the wrong way and dies. And then he makes up a story like, "Oh, if only she would pick up her clothes, she wouldn't have tripped down the stairs." And it's like, you're full of shit. Like, everybody can read through that lie like no tomorrow. But she dies, and then this guy, because he's a brain expert, he had his BB robot destroyed, wants to put the chip inside her brain. So now she's all like robot zombified kind of thing. And she's going after people that pissed her off, which doesn't make much sense because it's the robot chip, so she shouldn't have any conscious of her own. Previously, it should be just the robot consciousness, but that's another plot hole. And there's a ridiculous kill in the basement of her home, like where she basically like burns her father alive in a furnace, and the furnace's flames is just like all over the place. And yeah, it's, I mean, the ending again is ridiculous. She like literally turns into a robot. It gets a little Terminator too, because like the robot always has robot vision. So anytime there's kill scenes going on, it's kind of like glitchy, like robot vision basically. And I mean, it plays out with her in the end when the robot is like, but then the robot like, she turns into one, where at the end it like, basically it's a robot machine crawling out of her skin. It's insanity. I mean, I really could go make like an hour review on this film. Maybe I will sometime. But 31 Days of Horror, I gotta keep this like under 15 minutes, and we're not at 10 yet, but it's basically just a ridiculous wild ride. So I personally would recommend this, but this is clearly not going to be for everybody. It's just the best piece of camp. Like, if anybody has ever seen Sleepaway Camp, it's it's on that par of just ridiculous cheesy horror that is, you have to watch it to believe it. Like, you have to experience it to know how crazy it is, because people are going to be like, oh my god, this is like the craziest, cheesiest, corniest shit you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, well, I mean, how cheesy and corny can it get? And then you watch it and then you're like, okay, I understand. It's that kind of film. So, Deadly Friend is number 4 in 31 Days of Horror. It's my first time watch. All the films that I watch in 31 Days of Horror is my first viewing. So, I would say yes, go check it out, because there's things in this film that have to be witnessed to be believed. So I'm just gonna leave it basically off at that. Subscribe to Morgan Film Event if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more. It's 31 Days of Horror. Subscribe if you like what you see, and until next time, have a good one and take care and cheers.